if you're going to continue down this road, let's just start.
Welcome to the Don't Get So Emotional podcast. I'm joined by Chris Dangerfield. Hi, Chris.
Hello, mate. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me on.
So, Chris has just published his new book, which we're going to talk about, but I'm also going to cover lots of other topics as well, which I hope you're going to find interesting. For those of you who don't know about Chris, I'll give you a quick background and he can correct me on anything that's wrong. And a lot of this is from Wikipedia. Okay. So, Chris is an English writer, storyteller and former stand-up, born in Dartford. Wikipedia says you are noted as a radical and original comic, selling out the Comedy Cafe in 2 days, beating the 20-year-old record. After 10 years as a comic, you relocated to Cambodia in 2018 and you continue to stream on YouTube on the Dangerfield channel. You've got your Substack and, as I said, you've just written your latest book. Is that all correct so far?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, brilliant. So the first question I've got is, why did you, because you lived in Soho originally, right? Why did you move from the UK to Cambodia?
You just told me before we started you've just finished my novel, so
I
you'll
have.
understand probably why I wanted to. It had been my dream since I was about 10 years old to live in Soho.
Yeah.
When you grow up somewhere like Dartford and you bunk off school and you can get to Soho for 60p on the old Red Bus Rover. I don't know if you're from that part of the world.
No, I'm a Guildford boy, but I know what you mean. It's not far, is it?
Yeah, any red buses all day long, 60p. And when you're getting £1 a week pocket money, that's a day out in London, central London. And that was just my dream. So I got very lucky. I was in the right place at the right time, and I had the help of a very good friend. I've had substance. I love them. That's it. I was trying to think whether to say abuse issues or problems. No, I just love taking substances, always have. And I washed up back at my mother's house, and a very good friend of mine, Mark, said to me, "What are you doing, man? Look at the state here." And he gave me a computer, one of these old sort of like, it was almost yellow. It had been in an office for so long. And he got me on the internet. This was dial-up. This was about 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. The most amazing thing, like the biggest library in the world, just in your bedroom. So I'm sitting there smoking bifters, found a forum. Couldn't believe it. I'll never forget the first person online I spoke to was a steel worker in Illinois. And it was just incredible that this was actually happening. Next day, Mark comes around. He says, "What have you been doing then?" And I said, "Well, I've been on these forums. You chat with people." He said, "You can have your own one." Cut a long story short, he said, "What do you want?" My narcissism was like, yeah, I want my own forum.
Yeah.
And I've been working on a lockpicking tool called a bump key. The patent for that, the original patent for a sort of a bump key was 1937, but I was updating it a little bit. So I said to him, UK bump keys. So we'd done it. We uploaded a couple of photos, a couple of videos. 2005, this is. They weren't great quality. It looked like they were made out of Lego. Next day, 500 members. And he said to me, "This is outrageous. This is like, this doesn't happen." Most of them saying, "I'm a professional locksmith. How much?" So I just answered them. I said, "They're a tenner each." I didn't know anything about lockpicking. I knew a little bit about bump keys because I'd been messing around with them.
Yeah.
And the next thing, like 3 days later, there's 30 envelopes on my mother's welcome mat where people are sending me money through the post, and I'm hand making these bump keys with little rat tail files, needle files. Anyway, within about 2 months, that business was doing £5 grand turnover a day.
A day
Yeah, not every day,
in
but
2005.
yeah, between about 2.5, but a good, really good day would be £5 grand, and it wouldn't be odd to have 2 of those in a week, £5 grand day, not profit revenue, but
Yeah.
when your overheads are blank keys from Timpson and a set of rat tail files that your old man left you when he died, literally that was my overhead. So when I tell people I set the business up on no money, they don't believe me, but I literally had a budget of nothing. So that was it. My childhood dream of living in Soho. Lovely. So I'd done that, moved up there, moved into a flat on Rupert Street, right in the heart of Soho. You got Old Compton Street that way. You got Berwick Street that way. You got Brewer Street behind you. You got Shaftesbury Avenue in Chinatown, and it was everything I thought it would be. It was just incredible. Lived there for years and years. Moved up to Lexington Street. That again, it was everything I thought it would be. But after about, I don't know, I can't really remember, 10, 15 years, I started thinking, this is a lot of money for essentially a bed sit. I mean, the second place had a separate bathroom, and it was a nice bed sit.
Mm.
And then one of the beautiful things about living in Soho is people go to Soho, they visit.
Mm-hmm.
So on almost a daily basis, I'd get a message on my phone, I'm coming into town, do you want to meet up for a cup of tea? Down to Bar Italia. And so a lot of socializing, and I'm actually quite a loner. But when it's just a cup of tea in an hour sitting around, it's lovely for me. I don't really make the effort to jump on a train and go halfway up the country and stay at someone's house and put up with their missus not liking me and the bad habits I brought into their house. So it was just beautiful. It starts changing Soho rapidly. I'd been visiting Thailand and Cambodia again because of the money. I missed out on all that as a youngster. All my mates were coming back from Thailand saying, mate, you can get anything you want at the pharmacies. You get on a scooter, you go around, there's women everywhere. And I'd just sort of be sitting at home like petty criminal, very well, something crashed outside. Petty crime that could have got me in a lot of trouble though. And so I missed out on all that. So I jumped at it. I was spending half the year in Thailand in my early 30s. And then I got a girlfriend, and of course she's seen all my Thailand stories on YouTube. She wants to go, but I can't go because every single woman in Patong knows me. knows me. So I said, Southeast Asia's great. I said, but Cambodia's a place to go.
Yeah.
So we used to go to Sihanoukville, and I was going to move to Sihanoukville because Cambodia is an amazing place. Cambodia now is what Thailand was 25 years ago.
Right.
Very lax. I haven't seen a policeman in God knows how long.
Yeah.
One, because they're not about, and two, they're not really needed. The place is 98% ethnic Khmer. It's an ethno state. Everyone's got skin in the game. They sort things out amongst their communities that they still have, And I was going to move to Sihanoukville, but when I wrote to my friend who'd built a hotel in Sihanoukville is down on the southwest coast. Paradise Beach is just miles of white sand, palm trees, clean as you like. The sea, you can walk out like a couple of miles and it's only up to sort of your thighs, tropical fish everywhere. And when I wrote to him, I said, right, I'm finally making the move. He said, Sihanoukville's over. He said, the Chinese come over. They built a lot of casinos. No one wanted to use them. they've wrecked everything. It's just the main part of Sihanoukville is just Chinese using the casinos, getting drunk, hanging around in crowds, leaving a lot of mess everywhere. And so I thought, well, I'm still going. And he said, go to the capital, you'll have a great time. So I moved to Phnom Penh, and instead of paying £2,300 a month rent, which is what my Soho apartment was, that's a considerable amount of money to pay for rent. I moved into a warehouse space, converted warehouse space. Not wasn't squatting, a warehouse.
Yeah.
Beautiful house. And that was like $600. So at the time, about 450 pounds a month. And actually fell in love about 3 months after I'd been here. That was 8 years ago. I'm still with her. We've bought land in the provinces right next to the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And she's got all the footings and all that done. It's about the size of 1.5 Premier League football pitches. It's a huge plot.
I remember watching your stream, and she used to appear occasionally, and you thought for some reason it wasn't for you, and everyone was like, no, Chris, what are you doing, and I was so pleased. I think it was about a month later you were back together.
I thought it was unfair for her. I thought, I'm too old,
Yeah.
She wants children, and
Yeah.
I do too. And I just thought it's unfair because I'm not going to be around, maybe I'll get 20 more years. I mean, they're saying people our age are going to probably average
you're
about
2 years
80.
younger than me, and I'm I'd like to think I've got 30 years. Probably
Right, well,
not.
okay. And what are those 10 years going to be like? I don't want to be the bloke that
No.
she's now having to look after. That's not a
Yeah.
nice life for her, especially if we have kids.
No.
And so I just thought it was unfair. I've had very long relationships in my life. 8 years, 2 years, 11 years, 6 years, 2 years. And all of them I finished. And when I finished them, I was like, yes, yes. None of them were like, all I thought was, why do I put up with this stuff for so long? But this one has been completely different just because I matured late, really. I've never wanted to put down roots anywhere. I wanted to be free, just free. But there's different types of freedom, actually. And as I'm getting older, building my own house that I won't have to earn money for. Once that house is built, the people in the provinces, like the province we're building the house in, there's only about another 15 houses there. Some of them are like proper old traditional Cambodian houses. They're on poles. They're made of like old palms that are woven together. Real fire hazards. But to find another province, you'll have to drive sort of 10 miles away. They're just dotted about the place. So there's no work. So what they do is they're self-sufficient. They don't sort of set out, I'm going to have a small holding, I'm going to get some chickens and we're going to do this. It's just happened like that there for centuries. And the missus has already planted durian, watermelons, pineapples, bananas, coconuts, some boring stuff as well, like plantain and potatoes and carrots, and all the herbs. And you can grow pretty much, well, not pretty much everything. You can't grow olives and strawberries, which is a bit of a shame. But she bought them as plants, and in 2 years they'll be producing fruit. So theoretically, I won't have to earn any money, or not much money, in a few years, which is quite handy because I've walked away from that lockpicking business to be a full-time writer.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
You mentioned that you were a lot happier now. Your time is freed up, and you can actually concentrate on what you love, which is right.
yeah.
And YouTube, you could probably do a lot more YouTubing as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. I made a video today for my lockpicking channel. I know it's still lockpicking, but it's not. It's making a video and it's been entertaining and things I like doing. You know, in the early days of that business was amazing. It was really good fun. It was really creative. But we've now got two shops. They're both online, but one's focused in the US, one's in the UK. And it's just a lot of admin. It's a lot of admin. It's a lot of numbers and data, and it's not what I enjoy doing. And I suddenly, well, suddenly is an exaggeration, but it kept haunting me. I know when I've got to make changes in my life because I'm reminded, and then the frequency of those reminders increases. It gets to the point where, like, look, if you don't, that novel that you just held up, I was writing that and running the business. So I was running the business during the day. Now I don't have to do a lot because I've got staff. There's 12 staff there, but I have to be available. And that in itself is frustrating. Some days I'll have to do a lot. You know, there's a lot of marketing and promotional work that takes a long time and a lot of energy. And then I'd finish work and start writing. I'd crawl into bed at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm up at, 11 and I'm back at work. And by the end of it, I thought something's got to go here. I was YouTubing. I do live streams a couple a week. I try and do at least 2 a week, and I try and make 2 videos at least a week. I was YouTubing. I was writing the novel and running a business. And by the end of it, I was shattered. I thought, spring chicken anymore. Something's got to go. And what I had to decide, am I going to stop YouTubing, stop writing, or stop running the business? The writing was never going to be jettisoned because, I published my first novel when I was 23. And I've got a couple I've got one that you probably know that I've been writing for 9 years. That's currently it's just got totally out of hand, but I'm still very proud of it. And so I just thought one day, right, I'm done with it. I'm done with running the business. I'll try and make a living as a writer. And the beautiful thing is, it has exceeded my expectations more. I never thought it was going to go like this. I think I'm a good writer, and anyone who does anything should think they're good at it, or why bother? But it went in on the Kindle store in the USA. It went to #1 in new releases. There's about 6,000 books uploaded every day to US Kindle. It went to
How did it
number
do so well in the
81.
US?
Well, who knows? I mean, my total budget spend on promotion for that novel has been $30.
Really?
That's all I've spent, even in the UK.
Yeah.
In the UK, it went to 117 in dark humor, 114 in British literary fiction. In America, it ranked around the hundreds. Companies with a big PR team, a big marketing team, a big budget, they struggle to penetrate the 100,000s.
Yeah.
And it's just been absolutely absurd that it's, to have got, I've got 24 reviews. It's only been out a month.
I haven't done mine yet.
Reviews.
I will be doing one.
Yeah.
I'll do a review after the episode drops.
It's all right. I can't.
You don't know what I think about it.
Yeah, it's lovely that you bought it and that you spent time on it. It takes a lot to read a book. Time.
3 days.
Time is one of those things we haven't got. 3 days. You sat and done it in
3 days. I was up to. It's 254 pages, I think. I was up to 180 pages yesterday because I went to London to see the ABBA concert, which is absolutely fantastic. It is, honestly, it's all hologram, 3D, stunning,
Wow.
Stunning, absolute. ABBA Voyage, it's called. I absolutely loved it. So I wanted to read it on the train, okay? And I got on the train. And my girlfriend said, Paul, people are looking at you. And I was like, what are they looking at me for? And she said, the title of the book. And I said, I don't give a monkeys what the thing. And she said, well, I do. So I couldn't read it on the train. and I thought I'm not going to have time to read it. And then today I just sat down with a cup of tea and I finished it. And I'm going to come on to the. I absolutely loved it, and the ending. I'm not going to talk about the ending. It's just a fantastic book, and the number of times I laughed out loud. Um, I don't want to give anything away because there's so, but there's a bit in it about smelling people's bums. That
Yeah.
made me laugh.
I just want to say I am not the bum smeller in that story. That's a true story. 90% of the stories in there
I
are
want to ask you,
true.
how much of it is biographical or
Well,
autobiographical?
I don't know if you've read any of my Substack, but I don't have the sort of imagination to make stuff up. You know,
Okay.
I just have had quite an interesting life, and
So did
sorry, I'm
that
getting attacked by
situation
mosquitoes.
with the foot coming through the ceiling, that happened?
Yeah, yeah, that's legit.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, we come straight onto the book now because we've kind of gone to. I think when I was reading it, and I'll tell you what I love about is that a 70s font?
What it actually is, it's kind of a pastiche. Philip Roth, probably the
Right.
most, yeah, you know Philip Roth,
Yeah.
contemporary American writer. It's a pastiche of the cover of Portnoy's Complaint.
Right.
But I broke the first rule of self-publishing. I mean, it isn't. I set up a publishing house, Ugly Mink, because
I
if
think
you
we
let
can see it.
Amazon publish it,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. If you let Amazon publish it, you can't do what they call go wide, which means you can't sell to Waterstones and independent bookshops.
Oh, right.
And my
You're
first novel,
tied to Amazon.
yeah, they're quite naughty actually, because when you upload the book, they're like, "Have you got an ISBN number? Don't worry. If you haven't, we'll give you one."
It'll be
And
their
if you
own.
accept, yeah,
Yeah.
if you accept that, you're kind of done for. I don't know if you can change it later. I'm not sure, but it's a bit sneaky
Mm,
because you can't get registered on places like Gardeners and these other things that, you know, brick and mortar bookstores or whatever go to order
mm.
books. Um, but the bloke that gave me that computer, I mentioned his name, Mark, when I
Yeah.
told you that's the Mark in the book as
That's the
well.
mark in the book. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That happened.
But
Nuts, isn't it?
when I was reading it, um, I thought this could be a series. This could be. I could see it televisually, like the Adrian Mole series. And I thought, I mean, it's kind of like a modern day Adrian Mole, but it's got, I read that years ago. This is quite gritty, but it's funny.
Yeah,
I mean, the little references, zig zig, but it's got so much in it that you remember it. The bit about the Beatles and the Volkswagen, everything. If you're in
do
your
you mean?
40s or 50s,
Sorry, do you mean the Beastie Boys?
oh, did
Much
I
to
say
do with.
Beatles?
Yeah, yeah,
Right, that's going to get edited. Yeah, I'll say that again. Yeah, the bit with the Beastie Boys and the VW badge and all that.
yeah.
Yeah, it brought back so many, and just the stuff that happens is hilarious. Anyway,
That means the world. That means the world to me. It really does. You know, just when people like something you've done, it's lovely. Thank you
but
very much.
but the thing that I like about it is it's written like a 14-year-old would write with his funny little sayings. And I found a diary that I when I went on holiday to Hastings, and I read it back, and I was trying to be funny, and it was a bit cringe, but it was kind of sweet as well, and that's kind of
Yeah.
what that's like, you know, um,
What a bit cringe.
cringe. Yeah, it's quite cringe.
Thanks.
I'm trying to, I remember I got caught.
Don't put that in the Amazon review.
No, no,
A
no.
bit cringe isn't gonna
Yeah, the
go too
AI will
well.
put it in. Some
Oh,
readers said it's cringe.
oh, you that AI thing. So for people who don't know, Amazon have started doing this AI summary, and I've been on to them about this because the AI summary I've got 24 reviews on the UK site. 18 of them have got writing, and the others have just done it. 4.9 out of 5, which is near perfect. And it says that. It says, oh, readers thought it was this, thought it was this, thought it was this. And at the end it says, however, some readers thought the pacing was awkward and embarrassing. Now, how pacing can be embarrassing, I don't know. But I went through all the reviews and no one says that. The words awkward and embarrassing are always used in reference to being 14 and the kind of things you have to deal with, as you're growing up. So that's, you put all this time writing, you're putting all this effort promoting it, and it's front and center, this AI summary, and it's like, oh, thanks for totally misrepresenting the reviews. You mentioned series there.
Yeah.
Now, the book I've been writing for 9 years, it's a picaresque, dare I say it, postmodern, virtually unreadable, told in the first person present mainly, which is a clunky way of writing. It's a clunky way to read as well. And that's kind of more me. That novel's like my magnum opus, I'm not taking anything away from this book, but if I were to drop that one on the public now, it would probably do nothing. So what I'm doing is I'm going to spend the next 3 years building up an audience with slightly more approachable material like Love in the Time of Nudie Mags.
Yeah.
But when you mention series, I've already started writing the second one, and it is the same character, me, at 16. But I'm not writing it as a journal. I'm going to write it from where I am now.
No. And another thing, let's talk about this. I always used to find nudie mags when I was going about. I used to go in the woods, and I'd always find
That's it. On my Substack, there's a story. It's called something like That Carrier Bag of Porn Mags in the Woods.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it's a strange ritual that people don't want to just chuck them in the bin, or, they actually go to the effort of wrapping them up in a few bags, getting them in the boot of their car, driving down to the woods, probably sneaking about and just dumping them.
There's the joy of finding in the woods when you were a kid. I can remember it now.
4 or 5 of you sitting around all day, sometimes in the rain, just sort of peeling pages apart, and hours. Magical. It was magical for me. They had, as you know, they had quite the effect on me. And there's something quite sad because, I like a photo of a woman in nice underwear and a pair of heels, and I see some of the stuff that kids can watch online now, and it disgusts me. And I feel for them. I feel for what the effect that's going to have on their relationships. I feel for women, young girls, what that's going to make them feel like they're going to have to live up to. It perhaps comes across odd to suggest that nudie mags had an innocence, but relatively or comparatively to what is available today, there was an innocence about just a picture of a lady slowly getting undressed.
And they would have cartoons and comics and letters and stuff. Now you just go on there and it's just gynecological.
You've nailed it. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like anatomy. It's like a biology lesson.
Yeah. Another thing about the book, which I thought, obviously it's I think there's a lot of love to your parents in it. Okay. To your mum and your dad. Okay. And I don't know what your relationship was like with them in real life. But there's a couple of bits in it that are very warm and tender, where you're talking to him, and your mum, when your mum goes to the school. I just thought, I mean, was that when you were writing it? Did you feel that? Did it?
It was essential, really, to put that moment in. I mean, the thing is, 14-year-old boys certainly working class boys, certainly my experience of them, they don't really get on with their mums too well. Their mums are trying to keep them in order, and and they don't want to be kept in order. They want to be doing their own thing. So it's not swallows and Amazons or the railway children. It certainly wasn't in my house.
Yeah.
But she would, moments like the one you're referring to occasionally, and I'll be like, wow, wow, what a thing to do. You've played a blinder there, Mum.
Yeah. No, that was a really great part. And then with your dad as well, where he's giving you advice. And then, it's just, the thing is about the book is the characters, because they're drawn from real life, they don't feel forced and they don't feel fake. When you read some books, you think that don't sound right, that couldn't happen, or I don't believe that. There's none of that. It's all, and also you get to know the characters.
It's funny you say that, because I mentioned this sprawling, picaresque, postmodern magnus opus I'm talking about. When I started writing Love in the Time of Nudie Mags, I was shocked and a little bit concerned at how easy I was finding it writing as a 14-year-old. I've spent 40 years trying to learn to be a writer and get my voice, and suddenly, this sounds convincingly 14 years old. I'm not quite sure if that's a good or a bad thing, but for that book, it's certainly a good thing.
I got this.
I
got it. I thought that'd be good on YouTube. Nope, incorrect.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you used to be a stand-up comedian. Tell me about it. How did you get started, and what are your memories of the time?
All right. I think I was on about my 16th rehab center, treatment center, whatever you want to call them, and they're horrible places. But this one was very, very different. Immediately very different. I bonded immediately with. I thought he was a cleaner. He came in and they search your bags and all that to make sure you haven't tried to bring anything in. He did miss 100 Valium, but he was kind of casual about everything. And I was just talking to him like he was, hired help or whatever. But it turned out he was the boss of the place. It was a charity. But I really bonded with him, and he really had respect for the people there. A lot of people in these places are treated very badly. And anyway, so it was the first rehab where I done the whole thing. I'd done 14 weeks, I think, there. And all the other ones, some of them I'd managed 2 or 3 days, sometimes 2 or 3 weeks. And didn't feel like, even ones where I'd done 5 or 6 weeks, I didn't feel like I was getting anything out of it. I'd lay in bed at night and say, if the bloke I was sharing a room with said, look, I've got some gear, I'd go, yeah, let's do it. And after 6 weeks in treatment, you'd think that maybe you'd not be, I don't know. But this is relevant to the question, trust me. And I really bought it. I'd done about 120 NA meetings in 90 days. They advise you to do 90 in 90. And it has an element of brainwashing about it. You just, you hear the same stuff over and over again. And as you do when you're out there using, it's very similar. In fact, the sort of the methodology of being a drug user is very similar to being a rehab user when done correctly. I was in about my penultimate week, and I made a lot of good friends at that place. Most of them are dead now. There's about 3 of them still alive, 4. And my mate said to me, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you leave? And I said, I'd been thinking about it, and I discovered Doug Stanhope, an American comedian. I discovered him in my time, because that treatment center was, it didn't, so you went, there was houses where there was about 30 people at the 30 patients, clients, I don't know, druggies, junkies in the actual place. But at the end of the day, you'd all go to these houses and there'd be 5 or 6 of you in these different houses. And so, you'd get a little bit of time at night to think about things. And I had an iPhone 1 because I had my business. I had the first iPhone. I didn't even know what it was. Just because I had some money, I thought, I'm going to buy a decent phone. I didn't, I had one of those old Nokias for years. And as a junkie, you just lose them every week anyway. They nick someone's. And I thought, I'm going to buy a phone. And it happened to be the launch day of the iPhone 1. So this will tell you when I must have been about 35. And I went into the shop. There's all these big posters up. I said, "What's this?" And she had a sales pitch, and I just went, "Yeah, all right, go on." A few £100. I'd never spent that sort of money on a phone, but when you're doing £5 a day, yeah, I'll take it. And so at night, so here's a weird thing. I went to an NA meeting, and I've got my iPhone, and I'm just sort of checking the time, and a bloke come up to me, and he said, "Oh, I've got an iPhone as well." And I thought it was an odd thing because I didn't understand anything about this new technology. And he showed me a YouTube video on it. I went, "How'd you get YouTube videos on your phone?" He went, "Go to YouTube." And, I'd had it for like 6 months and hadn't watched a single video on it. I didn't, and so on that phone, I discovered Doug Stanhope. I'd already published a novel. I published a novel when I was 23. I got a master's degree when I was 23. Tired, etc.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, but it was stocked in Waterstones, Barnes and Noble, all those brick and mortar shops. Got some great reviews. Got a great review from the Kudrow Eshan, his name is. He was the director of the ICA, the Institute of Contemporary Arts in London. He wrote a review in ID, but I guerrilla marketed the hell out of that book. The things we'd done. I was living in a squat in Bethnal Green, and there was about 8 of us there, and we sat there for about 4 days making, I think it was about 7,000 cocaine wraps. Little square bit of paper, wrap it over, tuck over, put the triangle in. But we'd put a little bit of sugar in it. But what was also in it was the review from Kudrow Eshan from the ICA, the name of the book, and the ISBN number. And then we just went into London. I think we'd done Birmingham, Edinburgh, Manchester, Liverpool. Because you can't chuck 5 of these in a pub toilet. No one's dropping 5 wraps. You do one, and then you do one just in the street. And it took a long time to get rid of 7,000. I mean, we all had paper cuts on our hands, and I didn't pay them anything because I didn't have any money. So what people would do, obviously, is just pick them up in their pocket. Oh, lovely, get home, gutted. And then the psychology is, all right, fair play. You done me up there.
Yeah.
And I think it's like if you've got that kind of mind, then you've probably written a decent novel. That's what I felt anyway. There was some other things we've done, but this isn't a marketing stream. And so I was already writing. I was still writing. I used to go up and down the Charing Cross Road because there was about 6 Waterstones and a couple of Borders, and put all my books, because they were on the spine, in a brick and mortar shop. The best placement is it's called the table. When you walk in the shop, there's a table where all the books are face up. And I'd go in and just take mine out of the literary fiction section and put it on the table. And then if I had a date, especially if I had a date, I'd do all of the shops in London, even the indie bookshops. And I'd say, "Listen, before we go out for dinner and go out for a drink, I just want to go and find a book." And I'd just linger around the bit where my book is until she'd say, is that you? And I'd go, oh, that's interesting. Still in print. Yeah, wrote that a few years ago. Anyway, And so a friend of mine in the rehab centre, it was coming towards the end. I knew I was going to have to leave, and it's quite frightening leaving a rehab, especially when you're really going for it and you think you've done it. And he said, "What are you going to do?" And after watching Doug Stanhope and the material he told, it's out. You know, it's brutal, it's dirty, it's messy.
Yeah.
It's not what you usually expect of most commercial stand-ups, but he's made a living out of it for 40, 50 years. You know, he's an old man now. But then he wasn't. And I thought, I've always been a raconteur, you know, I've written, but if you put me in a boozer with a few people, and especially if there's some pretty girls there, I'll just tell stories and sometimes annoyingly hold court. And, you know, much like an introvert is very quiet because they're scared or whatever, I'd just tell stories for the same reason. You know, I'm scared. I feel like I'm not worthy, or I'm less than. So I'd feel like I needed to entertain, but I would entertain. That would be part of it. And I thought, I can do that. I can stand on stage and talk. I've been doing it all my life, really. And so I said to him, I said, I'm going to be a comedian. I'm going to try and become a comedian. And he went, you don't know any jokes. What sort of jokes are you going to tell? I said, well, I'm not going to tell jokes. I'm going to tell stories.
Islington, Australia, Norwich, Newcastle. Place names aren't funny. Get over there, man. You're making me look fat. Oh, I'm restricted. This isn't real. The illusion of London. If I got some graffiti on this, some real graffiti on a fake wall, then I'd get arrested. It'll be a false arrest. See what I've done? Ah, there's there. No! False arrest. I'm really nervous because I need a shit. You too? He went, yeah, I know. You didn't. The Illusion of London, Part 2. Nazi. Look what they've hidden though. It's really nice.
One that I'd been thinking about, and interestingly, it was the first story I ever told as a comedian, and the last story. It was like the bookends of my 10-year stand-up career. And it was the story of I pulled a bird at a party while I was on quite a lot of acid. And it turned out that she had her hands, all her fingers were fused together. Like she you know, she had a proper condition.
Yeah.
And she also had this sort of partially inverted spine. You know, she was a cripple. I still know this girl today, you know, by the way, we get on really well. But when you're tripping and she, I said to him, I told him the story. I said, you know, when I was doing the do, I was sort of covering up her hands because they were putting me off a bit because of the acid. And then I got this mad feeling that if I did an orgasm, that the world was going to fail, that, you know, I needed to breathe. But her hands were freaking me out. She was sort of leaning on them. And she caught me trying to cover them up. And she said, don't cover them up. She said, take the piss out of them. She said, I like it. So I'm tripping. I'm on the job. Yeah. And I'm sort of, you know, I haven't practiced this sort of sex before. So I'm sort of going, your stupid hands. And I'm sort of thinking, oh, that's not what she wants, is it? And in the end, I was going, you know, I sort of got into it. I was going, you filthy. Can I swear on this channel, or would you rather me not?
Yeah, I swear quite a lot on the channel.
Well, by the end of it, quite loudly and with a lot of gusto and enthusiasm, I was going, you dirty fucking lobster bitch. And she was, she loved it. Assuming that's the response of someone loving it. I thought it at the time. But when after we'd done it and we were sitting down and she put a little biff together, she said, do you want a beer or a cup of tea or anything? And I said, yeah, whatever. And when she got out of the bed, that's when I first noticed that she had this sort of weird back, you know, her arse sort of stuck out. She had, you know, and because of the acid, I thought I'd done it. I thought given her so much, I
Thought you'd
thought I'd
broken
broken
her.
her back. Yeah. So anyway, I tell my mate that story, and he's looking at me, and he went, "You're off your head." He went, you can't, you can't say that. That's not comedy." And of course, I start doing the open mic circuit. For people who don't know, there's loads of gigs that you just turn up to. There's hardly anyone there. Most of the audience are other comedians. They're very generous to you, which gives you a false sense of your abilities because they know they're going to be up next. And within 2 years, I was a paid headliner. And I'd done a tour of people's living rooms with Trevor
Yes.
Locke.
Yes, that Wikipedia mentions that, and it says that you performed for, pardon the expression, you performed for Boy George.
Yeah, it was weird because we had Boy George at one end, Sadie Frost, Sadie Frost,
actress,
Moss Chops, Kate Moss,
Kate Moss, yeah.
yeah, Adam Ant was
No,
done. So you've got these,
you had Adam
like
Ant?
Chart. I didn't have him.
No,
But
but
did.
you performed for Adam Ant.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I could sing you the entire lyrics to the albums Kings of the Wild Frontier, and Prince Charming. I could do that for you now. I won't, but
I just
I was
on an
seriously.
aside, on my other channel, I did an interview with Marco Peroni.
Yeah, I saw it.
Did you see it?
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, as soon as I saw Marco Peroni, I was like, yeah, go on. So
It did so well, and he messaged me and he said, "Is it normal to get 1,000 views in a day?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Let's do another one." And we did another one, and it didn't do quite as well. It did okay, but anyway, yeah, I'm glad you watched that. He's a nice chap, isn't he?
Yeah, what sound though, Adam Yance with the old two drummers, and
Yeah.
Just that whole idea. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, he was like all those sort of archetypes, the sort of the pirate, the Indian brave, the sort what else did he? The Prince Charming, obviously.
Prince Charming,
the Highwayman. Just a young boy, just brilliant, man.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Sorry,
but we also. Oh, that's you all right. But we also did. So you're doing all these sort of famous, huge houses that were actually bigger than comedy venues that I'd performed in. The idea that, it was called Lock in Your Lounge after Trevor Locke. I was the support act. Frequently was better than him, though. I'll admit that, though. He was getting a bit upset in a friendly way about that. But he'd been doing stand-up for 20 odd years before then. So he'd kind of lost a little bit of the... for me, it was all new and exciting, and to be touring with someone with Trevor Locke's sort of reputation was amazing. He is a comedy genius. He's the best comedian in the world, and I really mean that. I mean, it's only subjective, but he bombs loads. He takes the risk. It's always improvised. One of his Edinburgh shows, he had a clipboard with a bit of paper on it, and the whole hour was just taking a register. So the audience would be there, and it'd have nothing written on the paper, but they'd have a pen, and they'd go, Richard. And if no one there was called Richard, it'd be like, right, Richard's in trouble. Or say something hilarious, and then it'd be like, Rupert. And someone would go, yeah. And they go, I want to talk to you, Rupert. And just all improvised. And when it works, it's just... I've sat and watched Trevor live, and I've been mesmerized. Just how are you doing this? Like just bosh. Okay, so so I'd done that tour with him, and that just propelled me, and I was high headlining quite small gigs, but still getting paid. And you don't really get that until you've been doing stand up for sort of 8, 9, 10 years. And by the end of my stand, I had two how do you say it? It sounds wrong when you say sell out. I sold out 2 Edinburgh shows, meaning before the show, people were queuing up out of the venue, out into the street, down the road, round the corner. and getting turned away every day for the 4 weeks of the show. I was dubbed the most controversial comedian of the Fringe, I think, by our friends at The Guardian. I think it was them who said it. The Feminist Avengers sent me, Jim Jeffries, and Jimmy Carr a courgette. That arrived at the place I was staying at. I didn't know anyone knew I lived there, and it was like Chris Dangerfield and blah blah blah. I opened it up, a courgette, bit of paper from the Feminist Avengers. Go fuck yourself.
Oh,
Thank you. The first sold out show was called Sex Tourist because I
Yeah.
went to Thailand to write a show. You know, Edinburgh was coming up. I'd never written a joke. I'd never written a story down. When I'd do a set, I'd just go up on stage and think, right, what story should I tell them? And I thought, I need a show, man, because you've got to have a flyer. I can't just write a flyer. Oh, I'm going to do a show. Well, you probably could. It's a risk. But I thought I'll go out to Thailand. I'll give all the different versions of that sort of activity a go, like the massage parlors, the sort of take homes, the girlfriend experience, and you know, just see what happens. I was clean at the time, and what actually happened was I ended up getting on the methamphetamine, getting a Glock, and it was just carnage, absolute carnage. Spent about 30 grand. I had like a 3-week blackout. The idea was to be a sex tourist in Thailand,
right.
and then come back and tell the stories, but
Right.
that didn't happen. However, I still called the show Sex Tourist, but then subtitled Lady Boys, Guns, Drugs. You know, it was madness. And the funny thing was, I was getting all this grief from feminists because of the name of the show. But there wasn't any sex in it because, you know, I was full of methamphetamine and like firing guns at people and running away from police. And it was, you know, but an amazing show. A couple of years after that, I had another sellout show called Sex with Children, which was, don't turn off, people. It was stories about experiences that I had as a child. It wasn't a how-to workshop. It was like, by the way, that response is rehearsed. When people used to leave, like after sort of 2 minutes of me talking, I'd say to the audience, I'd say, they're just gutted that it's not a workshop. But you know, I had a quite a few nasty things happened to me as a kid, so I thought I'll weaponize that, and I'll own it. And it was mind blowing. The big what's it called? The Scotsman is the big newspaper for the Edinburgh Fringe, and they contacted me. They said, we want to send someone round to interview you. Want to send a photographer round? And I had a big double-page spread in the Scotsman, and that came out during the Fringe, so I didn't have to give out flyers or anything after that. I had, you know, you could not get into that gig unless you got there a couple of hours early. And again, I'd only been doing stand-up at this time for about 4 or 5 years. But the reason I stopped doing it was because I'm going to shut the doors because there's a dog barking. Don't know if that'll help. I'll carry on where it was. The reason I stopped doing stand-up though was, you know, I'd get loads of 5-star reviews. When you have 2 sellout shows at the Fringe, that, you know, it's the biggest comedy festival in the world. Everyone's talking about, brilliant reviews everywhere, and there'd be plenty of agents and other sort of industry people in my audience. I got to know a lot of them, and you know, I'd be hobnobbing with them and going to the sort of private and members parties at Edinburgh. And then one day, this woman, Lisa White, who's a comedy agent, she said to me, she said, here's why no one's going to represent you. She said, because comedy now, they don't want you to be a comedian. They want you to be a celebrity. They want you to go on 9 out of 10 Cats. They want you to go on panel shows. Very few agents will sign a comedian these days just to do stand-up, because there's not as much money in it, and it's a lot of work, you know, putting a tour together. And, you know, if you've ever done any work in events, well, you've got to organize like 30 events, and they've all got to work and go well. And she said, what are you going to do on 9 out of 10 Cats? Look, we know what you talk about when you improvise. And I just thought, okay. And I thought, well, I'll do what Stanhope done. You know, Stanhope, he did get a gig on telly once. He was on the Man Show, but it was terrible. And you know, by about year 9, I was promoting my own gigs. I'd get my own venue. I'd get a support act in. It was like 20 quid a ticket. After paying the venue and the support act, I was earning like £1,500 for an hour on stage, which is, you know, that's good money. And I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I thought it's not a nice life, you know. It's not a nice life, stand-up comedy. If you're Louis C.K. or Chris Rock or whoever, and you've got a team working for you, doing all your work, it's great. But the job in comics, I know, they're lift sharing. There's 4 of them in a car. They're all depressed as hell. You know, they're eating motorway service station food. They're doing 2 gigs a day in working men's clubs that pay like 30 quid, 40 quid. And they're having to do 5 of those nights a week just to pay the bills. And I thought, is this really what I want to do? And then Trevor said to me, he came around my house once, Trevor Locke, he said, do you know what a social justice warrior is? And I said, no. And then he said, right. And he wrote down a few YouTube channels. I think it was Sargon of Akkad.
Yeah.
Atheism is Unstoppable. And that sort of time. Yeah. And it just changed me. You know, I'd done 5 years of liberal arts education and 2 years university. I was I was a communist when I left my master's degree, because it was a communist boot camp. They were that's what it was there for. And I carried that on into my 30s, but I realized it was more of a sort of a personality thing. It was more to get a bit of attention at parties, because I could argue it. I knew the stuff, and there's a lot of technique arguing for communists. It's not about looking for the truth. It's about how to outwit your opponent using technique. I always use the analogy of Scrabble. Scrabble's not about your vocabulary. I mean, it does help, but it's technique. It's knowing how to use your S's and your blanks and things like that. Like me and my mum used to play Scrabble, and we'd average like 300-400 points each. And that was what I wasn't politically engaged in communism. It was just part of my identity. And when I got into this whole SJW thing, I thought, you know, it filled me with excitement. These are interesting times. I mean, what are we talking about? 2015, 2016, I guess. Yeah. And I just thought, this is a bit more of me, man. And I thought, and one day I was like, I'm right wing. How weird is this? I didn't see this coming. Like, my heroes were like Karl Marx and Lenin.
One of the arguments that they have, if you ever talk to one of these sort of communist people, is you say, tell me a country where it's worked. And they said, oh, it's never been done properly.
Yeah, no true Scotsman fallacy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and you're taught that. You're taught to say that as well. The full argument is this: communism is a global project, and every time a country has tried to set it up, capitalist nations have imposed sanctions or invaded them or whatever to stop the spread of it, so that when it becomes global and we go into the communist utopia, everything will be lovely. And you can't really answer that without sounding like an idiot, because it's an idiotic thing to say. I mean, communism has got what, 300 million dead people in its wake. It's just it's been tried on 2/3 of the planet, and in most of those places people have ended up eating dead humans to survive. I think we've tried that out. Capitalism is far from perfect. We dropped atomic bombs on civilian targets in Japan in the Second World War. A lot of other awful things happen, but there's some fundamental issues with communism, such as you've got no free market. And if you've got no free market, how do you regulate value? Because that's what markets do. Markets regulate value. They let you know the value of your resources. If you've got no markets, you don't know the value of your resources, including your labor, the value of labor. And if you don't know the value of your resources and your labor, you simply cannot plan long term. And we've seen the effects of not being able to plan long term. You might have been able to put someone in space before the Americans, but everyone else is walking around hunched over in a very awful, grey, dystopian hellhole.
You were briefly a musician as well, weren't you? In household.
I've been in bands, yeah. I've been in a lot of bands.
I'm stupid, I'm lazy, but in the discotheque I still look crazy. Love me, baby, I only tell lies 'cause the truth escapes. Summertime, we can get new shoes. I'll have brown and you can get the blues. I'm knackered, I'm fading, but in the right light I still look vaguely human. Happy, it won't be long before we cave in. Summertime, we can get new shoes. I'll have brown and you can get the blues. You can get the Don't worry about my heroin addiction, it's on its slide. I need you, love you, and I'll feel the same again tonight. Summertime, we can get new shoes. I'll have brown and you can get the blues. You can get the blues. You can get the blues. You can get the blues.
I just tell you, that band Household, we got signed on our first gig and unsigned on our second.
That's pretty good.
By Chaz Smash from Madness, by the way.
Oh, was he the manager?
No, he had a record company, Rolled Gold Records. The manager, we were managed by a company called Waste UK, who do all the merchandise for Radiohead. That was our management.
Okay.
But I was enjoying crack far too much to be worried about rock and roll.
I've heard you talk about the Overton window and how it's moved, and you've been back to the UK recently, I guess.
Yeah, my mother died 2 years ago, and I had to go back then. And my hometown of Dartford was just unrecognisable. I've been out in Southeast Asia it'll be 8 years in March, and people said to me, "You're in for a shock," and I thought I would be, but not that shock. For people that don't know, Dartford is on the M25. It's Junction 1. It's where the tunnel is. It's actually Kent, but people call it Southeast London, but it's not. It's North Kent, and it just looks like New Cross, Peckham, you know.
You mentioned about Mick Jagger. So when you mentioned that on the stream, I went and looked it up, and you're right.
Yeah.
So
So
he
my
visits-
brother went to the Dartford Grammar School, and he said to me when he was there was like a couple of Indian kids, an Asian kid, and if you look at that video that's going around of Mick Jagger, they're all Africans, and it's, you know, this has happened in what, 20 years.
Yeah, I mean the state of the UK, it's scary times.
I'm actually more optimistic now than I've ever been. Actually, I've started. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Carry on.
No, go on,
with
Karen. That's
your-
good. It's good.
Well, I done a stream with the Iconoclast about a year ago, and it was called "England is Over," and we were just discussing our pessimism. But I'm starting to think now that what's happening is all the guests that we never invited that came anyway, they're making it such a terrible place to live. I don't think most of them are going to want to hang around. I can't remember the numbers, but I read something the other day about most of the students who are here from other countries. They're not planning to hang around. They're getting their education, and they're you know, like 70-80% of them are getting out. They don't like it here. And Gavin Bobby has had this idea for a long time now. He says that these sort of no-go areas that without a doubt exist in your Rochdales, your Bradfords and all that, no one goes into them. When they call a plumber or, you know, any tradesman for that something needs repairing, they don't, everyone's like, no, you're all right. And so the places they live, because of what they've done, because we know what they've done, and because we know how they behave, not all, hashtag not all, but these people aren't going into them, and they're becoming ghettos. And there'll come a time when people will be like, you know, they're not in England for the weather, they're not in England for the food, and I think that a lot of them will go home voluntary. I think that will happen. I'm strangely optimistic about it. Maybe I just want that to be the case, but I didn't just come up with it one day. A few different data points have come to me recently, which makes me think that may happen. I hope something like that happens, because the alternatives aren't good at all.
I know you've seen the Piers Morgan, Nick Fuentes interview. I mean, the mainstream media just have no idea how to do an interview and use logic. I mean, Piers Morgan.
It was shocking.
And what do you mean by Hitler is very fucking cool? Because I think he's very fucking a monster.
Okay. And that's a clip. I think he's very fucking a monster. Do you hear yourself?
I don't think Morgan is as thick as he came across. He just couldn't entertain the truth.
And people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass
What's with the
shootings.
interruptions?
I'm sorry.
you know, he was a bad faith actor because, you know, when Fuentes talked about, you know, okay, but give me the percentage of white people who do this. And Morgan just refused to go there because that would have revealed a truth which would have supported Fuentes' argument. And Morgan doesn't want to do that.
I know that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools in America this century were perpetrated by young white men. And I'm
And
just
what proportion
I'm curious.
What proportion?
I'm curious whether your advice would be to people who have kids in
Wait,
these
is my
schools.
mic working?
He didn't want to do that. So he, you know, it was like, okay, I've failed with this one. Next attempted gotcha.
So are you playing dumb or are you actually dumb?
Maybe
it's
I'm
about
dumb.
proportionality.
Maybe I'm dumb.
You are because you're, well, I don't think you are dumb. I think you're smart actually, but you're deliberately avoiding per capita. And everybody knows that's the difference.
The mad thing about that is Morgan on X has just been tweeting about how he absolutely owned Fuentes.
Well, I've seen a poll, and I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, I find Piers Morgan insufferable to watch.
Like, this is not rigorous intellectually. This is very this is
Just a statement of
tabloid
fact.
theology. Okay, but it's fine. Where were we? We're talking about Trump,
let-
and somehow
well,
we got
on
into
Trump,
you're
look,
white
on-
knighting for
on-
women's rights.
And he's written a book called Wake Up, and I just, and the fact he shows called Uncensored, I think is hilarious.
Well, it's quite he's a clever bloke because he hasn't got the ability to debate.
You're very caught up in the labels. It's always you're a racist, you're a misogynist.
You said you
these
were a
words mean nothing
racist.
to me. Oh, hang
You
on.
gave
Whoa,
yourself.
can I respond?
You gave
Hey,
yourself the label.
what is this?
You said I am a racist. I didn't
No.
give you the label.
Okay.
You said
You're-
Nick Fuentes. I am a racist.
Calm down.
Well,
Calm down.
Did you or didn't you?
It's okay.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
here's
I
the
didn't
thing.
give you the label. You did.
Why are you yelling at me?
This is where we get to the issue of you and him discussing per capita. Right? Let me ask you this. Like you're a Catholic. We were talking about this. You said you'd be happy to talk about it. What do you think is going to be fruitful in attacking a celibate Catholic for not getting laid? Understand? Here's the one thing I would say that would help. Listen. You weren't listening to the guy, so you're not even able to lay out where you disagree and your own audience.
Well, I don't think you heard that. I don't think you could have heard the whole interview either.
Are you stupid or something?
I started off with this thing that all women are annoying and they all get old and fat and ugly.
What part of that do you disagree with?
All of it.
You don't think that women get fatter and more
I
unattractive?
think
Men do too, by the way.
I think men
You and I are
largely do.
both getting fatter and uglier. And I
Okay.
think that a lot of women, particularly if you go on TikTok and you see generationally, I think they're annoying.
You've obviously got your YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description so people can check it out. If you could interview anyone, alive or dead, who would you like to interview, and what would you ask them?
Oh, David Foster Wallace, the writer who killed himself. What would I like to ask them?
Why did he die?
Well, that would he hung himself.
Okay.
Shortly after his novel Infinite Jest made him the most talked about author in the world.
Okay.
There's a thing about being a storyteller that I think all writers, it's not imposter syndrome, but David Foster Wallace really, from what I can gather, really cared about being a normal bloke. And yet he spent his the whole of his adult life becoming the most talked about author, certainly in America, if not the world. And I think I'd ask him about the lack of cohesion between those two things. You know, there's a movie made. There was a movie made about him, and I watched a documentary about the movie, and they have that little conversation. He says, I really cherish my normal life and my normal guy, sort of thing. And the other bloke says, yeah, but you're not. You're David Foster Wallace.
So
But you asked me that question tomorrow, it'll probably be someone completely different and a different set of questions.
Talking about your YouTube channel, which is fascinating. If anyone hasn't joined, so the people who support you are Scrubs.
Yeah.
And you've got a really nice community. So when you do your live streams, people come in and they, you know, you kind of know everyone, don't you? That's a regular, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And I was looking on, you also do your Dragon's Den series, which are fantastic, where you're reacting to them. Are you still getting yeeted from them, or are you getting around that?
The reason I don't do so many of them anymore is because every time I have to do, there's two phases. I can't remember what they called it. One of them's an appeal, and one of them's called, it's a similar word to appeal. It's a synonym for appeal, but they don't accept the first one. Then it's actually illegal. They suggest you get a lawyer, you know, they suggest you get legal advice. And I'm dealing with Sony Pictures. Now, the problem with it is when you, as you know, when you make a YouTube video, you want to get it out there. I've done this, I've made something, I've created something, I'm proud of it, it's good. I want people to watch it. But when you have to then do this, I can't remember what the first one's called. It's not live. And so you have to wait, and sometimes it goes live, but then they take it off, and I win every time. They've all gone up in the end, but it's just a drag knowing that it could be 10 days before it goes out. And so I don't tend to do so many of those anymore. But they were crazy. I got more new subscribers from the Dragon's Den series than I have for anything else. Well, mainly because I live stream and I also tend to make long videos. And basic rule of YouTube, a 3-minute video will get you new subscribers. A 40-minute video will keep you subscribers.
So I'll do shorts, and I can get 10 subscribers from a 10-second short, and I can get one subscriber for a 10-minute video. It's like crazy, you know. But you also you did an interview with John McAfee, didn't you?
Yeah.
What happened there?
Yeah. He was nuts. I mean, he needs to be front and center. You know, he came on and he had his he poured his neat rum into the glass, and I'm not fazed by that. Come on. And I was like, it seems that, you know, you like drama.
We've both gone for some psychologically suspect shades, I see.
Well, I got to wear them all the time because I had cataract surgery 2 years ago, and bright light just kills me now. I can't. It's very painful.
Yeah.
But I can see better.
Because his life has been about drama, and he just didn't want to go there. He just wanted to. He wanted me to be fascinated by him and ask him questions, and I wanted to get into something a bit more interesting. He went, "Stop saying it seems to me." I was like, "Well, what's it? Well, yeah, but it seems to me." And he went, "You're doing it again."
John, are you sure? I understand this. I understand the idea of truth, but you have you know, your life has been dramatic.
Before we continue, if you're going to continue down this road, let's just stop, because I came here for a chat, not to be grilled. You want to be grilled? I could grill your ass if you want to see what grilling is.
You can grill me if you want.
Have a podcast, and you are confrontational with your guests. Let's start with that.
Why?
Let me
go for it.
Host and guest, all right? Or shut the fuck up and let's get on with the interview. It's up to you. I will leave here now. Are you ready? Do you want me to?
No, not at all. It's the last thing I want you to do.
Interview, and not your opinion of me. How do you know? You haven't even met me.
No.
You will have met me through this fucking interview.
And then he said, he couldn't even, John McAfee didn't even know how to turn a computer off.
Listen, I'm finished. Bye. Bye. Whoops.
John,
How do I get out of this goddamn thing?
He was going, how'd you bloody turn his, and then his wife said, no, give him a chance. And he went, he said, all right, I'll give you one more chance. He said, but none of that stuff. And I was thinking, what? A question?
Yes!
Why?
I have
Why?
this fucking podcast.
We're going to have, this is a good, John, this is already a good conversation.
Shit conversation. It's a one-sided conversation. Your fucking side. Don't stop yet. Maybe he'll shut the fuck up and get down to an interview. Will you do that? Yes or no?
Of course.
If so, ask a fucking question. Don't preface it with, it seems to me like you are. Here's the question. Well, fuck you.
John,
Right?
it seems,
How's that sound?
John, it seems.
No, fuck you. Ask a goddamn question.
It seems to me that you've been running for the majority.
Me. Seems to me. Fuck you, dude.
But when he died, I mean, I took it down. I actually took it down, but when he died, I put it back up because I thought I might get some more clicks.
Well, I'll put a link in the description. I'll put a short clip here so people can see it. Like I said, so listen, this has been a really interesting chat. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, brilliant.
The book, released in December, is available from Amazon. It's thoroughly recommended by me. Check the reviews out. I'll put them on the screen so you can see it. It's brilliant. And you got a quote here from Will Self. Dangerfield is some sort of Gnostic demiurge, the world we see around us in all its filth, pathos, and iniquity in his creation.
Is his creation.
Oh, is his creation. Sorry, is his creation. Okay, so you know Will Self. Is he a friend?
Friend, we talk a lot, but he's a difficult person to get on with. I mean, I'm not easy, in fairness, as the people who are very close to me would probably say much the same as what I'd say about Will.
Well, look, this has been really good. Let's tell people where they can find you. So you're on Twitter, X. Sorry,
I'm on X. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm on X at Flanner Words.
Okay,
I've got a Substack.
Substack, yeah. I'll put a link in there as well.
Dangerfield's Exaggerations. Are you going to be putting a link to the novel in
everything? I'll do a link to the Amazon.
Lovely.
Link to
That's
the
it, really. I mean, I've got Telegram, but all I really use it for is to say when I'm streaming. And if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel.
Yeah. So everyone, subscribe to his YouTube channel. Check out the book. Buy a copy because I think it is a brilliant read. If you're as old as me, if you were born in the 70s, you will absolutely love it. I can guarantee that. And it's only 14 quid. It's 14.99. Cheap. If you've got Amazon Prime.
I don't want to get all salesy, but if you do enjoy it, reviews on Amazon are gold dust.
And don't say anything about pacing.
Oh, you say something about pacing, but make it positive. Unless you don't think it is positive. I don't know.
So have you got an idea? Are you going to do another short book, or are you going to concentrate on the big one?
The big one I'm always working on. Yeah, I'm going to do the same character at the moment. I mean, like you said, that only came out a month ago, so I have had a bit of a rest. But I'm thinking I'm going to do the same character, but at 16 years old, but written as a retrospective. So written from now, talking about myself at 16, but it's the same character.
Yeah,
because so much happened in that year. I'm not going to tell you any of them, but real big life moments at 16.
Yeah, it is hilarious. I mean, it is. You know, on my channel, I had the chat with Tom where we were talking about books, and he said books don't make you laugh. I laughed out loud at several bits in this, and internally I was chuckling, but for a book to make you laugh, I think that's why my missus didn't like me reading it on the train, because but yeah, people.
Very kind.
Thank you, Chris. This has been really good. I really appreciate your time, and thanks everyone for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends, and we'll catch you on the next episode.